Welcome everyone. I'm just going to spotlight here. Um, and welcome to the Church Treasures webinars as we start another season. Um, Eric is still here, and he provides the font of knowledge. Also, Clyde Harris is joining us this time too. I'll start by saying that Stephen Fetter has retired, and to take on this work, we couldn't just replace Stephen. We had to find two people to replace Stephen. So looking after the technological end of this is my colleague Andrea Livingston from the communications department of the General Council. And my name's Greg Smith Young, and I am with the growth department of the General Council. I serve as a growth animator, so I come alongside newly forming communities of faith as well as existing communities of faith to help us all as the church to strengthen our invitation and to improve how we're connecting with our neighbors, how we're inviting them to explore and experience the life of Christ in our communities together. I live in or near Guelph, Ontario, in a small town called Elora, and I serve the Southwest Ontario Regional Councils in this role. Um, in terms of my experience I guess my treasurer experience all began back when I took grade 11 accounting with Mr. Bryson. Um, and ever since then, I've never been an official treasurer. I guess I was because I was on a hospital board in Northern Ontario, a small hospital, and they made me chair of the finance committee. And when they said that, I said, "Have you ever seen a church's finances? Like, it's not like we're swimming in money, so don't think I'm coming in with any secrets here." But they said, "No, what we need the chair of the finance committee to do is to help communicate our financial information to the public." And I thought, well, communication's a big part of it. So that's kind of a lens I take for all the work of managing a congregation's resources is how do we communicate that well to the decision makers, to the board, to the session or stewards or council, whatever you have, and also to the broader congregation. I've served in congregational ministry in Northern Ontario, a small town called Hornpain, north of Lake Superior, for 8 years, and then in and around the town of Elora at Hope Springs United Church, and I was there for 19 and a half years. And basically, my job is to introduce things, to keep an eye on the chat, and basically MC these conversations. We almost had Jimmy Kimmel come and do this, but then he got his job back. So you're back stuck with me too. So I'm going to add Eric here. Thank you, Kelly, for laughing at that joke. And Eric, I'll hand this over to you, and just let me know if you need me to jump in. And when we get to conversation or questions, I'll keep an eye on the chat and help call on people. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Greg, and welcome. Uh, there's an event next week celebrating Steve Fetter's contribution, and if anyone has wishes they'd like to extend, feel free to send them through to me or to Clyde, and we can pass them on. The theme, this fall, this time of year, the treasurer's mind turns to budgeting, turns to, is there anything new that is required? And the way life has been, there is. And so that's the plan for tonight. Regulars will know that we always cite the creed as our purpose. We the financial folks of the church, we're called to be the church and to celebrate God's presence. But we do that through helping make sure that everyone else stays relatively on side with things and can focus on stewardship and ministry. And for us, I would say our administration is ministry too. So before I start, I'd like to share this land acknowledgement, and it's from a board chair that I work with quite closely right now in Toronto, David Hallman. And so this is a land acknowledgement that focuses on Toronto, but I invite you all to consider where you are and whether some of these words resonate once we change the geography. So as we meet in this place, we invite in ourselves the awareness that for centuries others recognized the beauty and wonder of this place on the north shore of the lake, long cherished and cared for by Indigenous brothers and sisters, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, Huron, Wendat, and Haudenosaunee. We invite in ourselves the awareness that we share with them a call to care for this earth, a call to respect each other, and recognize each other as gifts of creation. Today, these places remain home to many Indigenous peoples. We are grateful to have the opportunity to meet and work, to gather, and to worship on this territory. And again, that's from David Hallman, who's a very talented writer and a past staffer, a retired staffer from the General Counsel Office. Okay, so what we're going to cover...
Eric, before you go on, is your screen on presentation mode?
It should be.
I've got your whole screen on mine, and that's why I'm
we're
asking.
seeing your Zoom, your PowerPoint
How's
operator
that?
screen.
Okay, let me try again. 1 second, folks. How is that?
No.
Okay.
Why don't
Down at the bottom, Eric, there's a little pedestal that's just to the left of the bar.
Yep. How's that?
Nope.
It did not change on mine.
Okay, let me try one more time, folks. You'd think I'd be in practice on this.
I think if you unshare and share again, it'll work. Just do from the beginning and then unshare and then share your screen again with the presentation mode up. That's
okay. Let's try that. Okay. Sorry, folks. Window.
Do you want me to try? And you can just tell me when to. Oh. Okay, now we're seeing your Zoom screen.
Okay, that's not very good either, is it? Okay.
Why don't I?
Yeah, please do. I've got a new computer here, and it seems to be acting up.
You just tell me when to. Just a second here.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I don't need to share sound, do I? You don't have any cool little jingle bells?
No,
or
I'm
anything?
good. Yeah.
Okay. How's that look, folks?
Yep, there it is.
That's better. Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Greg, nice recovery. Thank you. And
that's why Greg's here.
It's a beautiful relationship. That
yeah, indeed. Okay, so let's go forward to three screens quickly.
Okay.
To what we'll be covering tonight, and you just click through the creed. There's the landing. There we are. Okay, so we've already welcomed Greg, but there are a number of changes for 2026 budgeting. And as usual, just in case there are any new folks, we'll have some reminders and so on. Of course, we do always have some CRA news. And, maybe we've learned a bit and it's not as big a concern, but we'll talk a little bit about the postal strike. We'll also cover some of the excellent sharing of information that's happening on the ChurchX forum. And I'll just summarize a few things. What we're going to do, we've covered so much ground over the last number of years that we're going to try to take a deep dive into one or two topics at each webinar. And we'll announce these in advance just in case they're ones you want to skip. But tonight we're going to talk about workman's compensation eligibility, which has come up in a number of ways. And Clyde's also going to take us through electronic payments because that's how you get through mail strikes. And frankly, that's the way we live now, too. So throughout all of this, as usual, your questions in the chat. So next slide, please, Greg. So first of all, looking backwards, hopefully everyone on this call has filed their T3010. If not, drop what you're doing, get off this call, and go do that. The trouble you can get into if isn't worth it. You will also have seen back in June that anyone with month-end payrolls, once a month payrolls, was moved to the 25th. There were some ADP fee increases, and of course there was a minor historical event back in June as well, the 100th anniversary of the church. Looking forward, in August, the General Council approved an assessment rate increase, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And the 2026 cost of living factor will be based on the CPI Common 12-month average. Now, I'm not allowed to announce it, but I can tell you that the August number was 2.6, and they might be using the August number. Next slide, please. Again, this is the ADP service fees. The new rate is going to be $24.16 per payroll and $1.32 per employee. I want to stress how important it is that, people think they might be saving $1.32 by doing some manual gyrations or not considering someone an employee. Bad idea. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. Next slide. So the CRA is really selling hard the idea of filing your T3010 and frankly anything else related to charity electronically, and they're making that easier and easier. The steps to get your My Business account are way easier than they were a couple of years ago. If there's anyone here who doesn't have it, there's educational materials on how to do it, and frankly, even though maybe 5 years ago many of us thought we could finish our church careers without having to do this. COVID changed all of that for us, I think, and you need to do it. The underutilized housing tax, I say this only because there's going to be a budget presented in November. The underutilized housing tax for manses was the single dumbest thing we've had to deal with as a church. Certainly from an administrative perspective, there was a need to do some filing if we had manses and we had to report in 2022. The law, it hasn't come into law getting us off the hook, but it's been announced and re-announced, and the only reason it's not official is because there hasn't been an approved budget for so long, like a formally endorsed by Parliament budget. So it needs ratification, but do not spend even a second on this topic. My disdain is showing. Okay. Another thing I want to tell you is this is something I bumped into myself as a treasurer, and federal and provincial granting bodies are increasingly getting stickier with requirements. It's pretty normal now for a granting body to ask for proof of insurance if you're receiving a grant. And just recently in Ontario, I had to talk the seniors ministry in Ontario into accepting United Church applications because of our lack of incorporated status. So there's just some paperwork that continues to be a nuisance. We'll talk about the postal strike in a minute. Next slide, please, Greg. Okay. So I'm gonna do one slide. This is our first shot at a deep dive on online payments, and this you don't even have to go to the United Church website anymore. If you Google anything, AI, this is what AI tells us about making a payment to the local United Church, and as best I can tell, it's accurate. To make an online payment to a local church for a specific purpose, here's the ways you can do it. You can do it through Canada Helps. Check the local church's website, and it goes on. That's what AI says. But we, of course, have been trained to listen to Clyde. So next slide, please. Clyde, take over.
Okay. Two signature accounts. The question has come up again probably 3 times in the last month as we were leading into, and now with the strike of the postal system, this comes very important. Two signature accounts are not mandated by regulatory authorities, either the CRA or the UCC. It's something that started to try and protect the integrity of the people involved with bank accounts. And most organizations have moved away from it because it hinders you from using, in the banks, they don't want to put a 2-signature account onto any of the digital applications. And so what we're suggesting is that you move your account to a single signature account. And this takes an authorization by motion in your governance minutes and naming the persons who will have the ability to do anything with the account, basically getting them a business access card so that they can do banking at the ATMs, but also the EFT payments to vendors. They can add new vendors. They can put new people on e-transfers if you prefer to go that way for individuals. So it's important to get into that action fairly quick now, because most of us are receiving e-transfers, but it's still a real pain for the payments. If you are still using checks, I don't know how you're going to get them to your vendors. Next slide.
Clyde, before we go, someone is saying that they can still use, like in some financial institutions, you're able to use double signatures for digital payments.
Give me a minute to go on to the next slide and I'll answer that
brilliant.
question.
Okay. Yeah. I was setting you up there, man.
Thank you. Whatever you're doing, you're going to end up changing your procedures within your business, within your church operations. All your invoices, if they're approved before payment is made, that's one of your signatures. It can be looked at that way. The obtaining and protecting of banking details is very important, because if anything happens and this information gets out into the public, that becomes a cyber crime, or could be, and we don't want to be involved with those. So you have to make sure that the information is protected that you have. Now, options for digital services. There are software that can be connected to most accounting packages. There's many different variations of it. And you can maintain your dual signature on there. When you set up the signing authorities in it, what happens, you submit your payment, like your bookkeeper, treasurer, whoever it is that works in the system, makes the payment, sets it up in the payment system, and then the system, the program, will take and send out an email to the authorized people. And when 1, 2, 3, 4, however many you want, when they have replied, at least 2 out of the 4 is the way I would look at that. When they've replied, the payment will be processed. If it's approved, you can approve it, you can approve portions of it, or you can decline the whole thing, depending on what's in there and what your oversight is. So there are ways of doing 2 signatures. We're very cautious, as I was saying, about the banking details. You've got to enter them into a computer program, and as we know, these aren't always entered exactly right. So one wise person reminded me that there's an easy way of dealing with it, and that was to send $1 to the vendor and ask them to reply when they've received it. When they receive it, you know that that you're set up proper. Once it's set up, it should stay the same. So you can then finish the payment to them and send all future payments without too much concern. But keep your systems intact and know that you've got proper cybersecurity there so that you're not hacked. You can't prevent it totally, but you can reduce it. The option of getting hacked into so that any of this data gets out. And then destroy paper copies. I recently had to pay a bill online with by phone with my credit card, and the person on the other end said, very simple. I shred all the paper. As soon as I've written it down, it gets shredded once it's entered. And then you don't have the paper to worry about. You just have your computer programs to make sure that they're not hacked into at some point. That is something that we should all be working towards, and I've been working on that for a number of months now with my clients, and this just pushed us into doing a few more very quickly. I think that's the end of what I had there.
Great. Next slide, please. Thank you, Clyde. And just to say, I've seen a few comments where folks have had some success with some financial institutions around getting a two-signature account or getting a grandfathered account into allowing electronic banking. The banks want you to do it too. It's and their business model is cheaper, faster. So some of the dumb rules that they might have had in the past, I think everyone's looking to adapt here as we are. So, Clyde, thanks for the advice, and thank you for the comments in the chat box as well. Greg, next slide, please. Moving on to a couple of budget items. The first one is there is an assessment increase this year. If you submitted your statistics back in, say, April or March when they were due, you would have got one of the outputs of that is a projected or target assessment amount to aid your budgeting. Well, this summer, the General Counsel, after a fair bit of debate, as I understand it, approved a 0.5% increase for each of this coming year, 2026 and 2027. They also, as always, a church must do, created a direction for the general secretary to do further analysis and come back to see if they could come up with a better system. But there is an increase of from 4.5% of adjusted revenues for 2026 to 5%. And the calculation off investment balance is unchanged for 2026, but projected to increase to 0.30 in 2027. These numbers are already in your, in Church Hub, updated, for the target amount that you can use for your budgeting, and which will be used for all the folks that are already on automated payment for that. But if you haven't looked at it for a while and just had a number pre-General Counsel number in your head, please have another look, because you do have a bit of a cost increase there. Next slide, please. Another area where we're going to see an increase is in the area, for those of you who participate in the UCC Protect United program, which is a captive insurance arrangement that we put in a number of years ago. My church, at least, and I think many, depending on what your payment cycle was, is paying less or the same for insurance that we were 4 or 5 years ago, which most folks can't say. So the program has reduced and maintained some premium control, but we did have a tough claims year with a couple of big fires, Jasper being one of them in a year ago. So there will be a premium rate increase. I can't be more specific in that because we are in the midst of negotiating with reinsurers and making sure we get the pricing right. But there should be a notice out to participants by mid-October, and the renewal notices by the end of October. The renewal date, of course, is December 1st for the whole program. So that's another cost that we'll have to bear. Okay, next slide, please. So I just want to talk a little bit about ChurchX. There's been some terrific dialogue on ChurchX. And if you aren't subscribing to the forum for questions, you can always delete interim answers, or you can delete them all. But I recommend that as a treasurer, you sign on to at least see what's going on, because there will inevitably be a topic that applies to you. And we're getting some really great advice. It's going to be the home of the most current information and interpretations. Never again will printed material be able to keep up. I mean, maybe AI will have all the right answers someday, but right now, I really encourage you to sign up. What I've been doing personally is, trying to tie, when there's a string of multiple responses, some with partial or incomplete or sometimes wrong information, I try to tie them all together at the end. And we'll also be doing a deep dive on different topics, as we're doing tonight, for example. I just wanted to do a shout out to David Shearman, who has been offering a minister's perspective on a number of topics, and frankly knows the manual much better than Clyde or I will ever know. So that's been very helpful. Just one more slide on ChurchX. I just want to acknowledge there's a whole bunch of you that have been active participants. But if you were to go there and look right now, if you want to see a really good comprehensive answer and explanation on funds directed to other charities, Barbara has done that. David Shearman has explained assessments. Andy Spears has commented on bookkeeper services and a number of other topics as well. I did a summary for in-kind donations, rental rates and policies. There's some really excellent material there. Dave Jagger has, people were asking, do we have some policies for things like gift acceptance or planned giving policies? Dave Jagger was able to share that. And James McMillan seems to be a very knowledgeable guy on a whole bunch of topics, and he's also offered a number of very, very helpful comments. So I don't, you can all delete. So my advice would certainly be to sign on for this, just to monitor it. We all get email that we delete quickly, and the thing is, you don't have to weigh in necessarily. And if it's a sort of an interim question, or there's going to be some iterative comments, just delete it. It'll come back to you when it's more fully baked. So I recommend this now, as this is the equivalent of 15 years ago when they were asking me to tweet stuff. So next slide, please. Regular viewers will have seen this slide maybe 15 times. But it keeps coming up, and we keep, every year there's a church or two who get this, think they can be penny wise and pound foolish and avoid paying some EI and CPP and or maybe not have everybody on ADP. All those things will bite you eventually. In my view, is penny wise and pound foolish. The topic here is whether someone is an employee, and this is a slide that explains. I actually know when it's from. It's from the Connects issue of the Extra, March 2013. It hasn't changed, but we continue to bump into people who want to argue about it or get it wrong, or pay a fine. And I can guarantee you there are people on this call who have paid such fines. So with that, next slide. This is a reminder slide, and there'll be a few of those. this is something that's come up for me as a treasurer, and I've had to advise a number of treasurers, even in my retirement, on this. But I put this in my slides 10 years ago. If you're getting pushed on an issue on compliance and being asked to do a particularly liberal or perhaps even offside interpretation, never wear it yourself. Okay, if it comes back to bite, I mean, if the consensus or however decisions are made, my own church has made some decisions I disagree with, on certain matters, but they're not compliance matters, and never wear it yourself. Okay, because you need to think about how friends and neighbors and congregation members are going to receive it if it does go wrong. If you end up being fined for several years and some thousands of dollars because you were taking too liberal an interpretation on employee versus contractor, for example. So the way that, in this particular instance, if there's tax receipting, that, again, there's a fine that's 105% of the tax receipt value. And try explaining to congregation members as you're building stewardship campaigns that you're paying fines or unnecessary expense. It's simply not worth it. And my rule is never wear it yourself. It's not about you. Your job is to advise and try to get things on as compliant as you can. But sometimes you might have to give in on something. But make sure it's a group decision. Next slide.
Eric, just a quick question. Who would be making that decision then? Would it be the board? Would it be MMP?
Well, it depends on the nature of the decision, but I always, like for compliance matters, ultimately the board is accountable.
Yeah.
So I want the board to know that they're accountable for fines. Or
okay.
in the extreme, we used to always, or I shouldn't say we, I thought it was dumb. The United Church practitioners in the early 2000s used to say, "Oh, you'll lose your charitable status." Well, that has to be pretty severe, actually. But you could lose your charitable status if you're willfully breaching, compliance matters. But generally, it'll be a fine or a warning or something embarrassing. Next slide, please. Somebody's just written that somebody's been nailed twice for, I'm not even sure what that is, 30s. But anyway, IT complexity. We talk about this. I'm hoping there's no one on this call that hasn't fully attended to all of these. But you've got to have a record of all your user accounts and at least one backup. Clyde would say 2 or 3, for CRA, for your local system, for your CRA account, for your TeamPay account, for your church hub, and now with more postage strikes and everything else, your payment platforms. It's also very important that you keep those active. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've covered a fair number of different topics. Greg, I'm wondering if there are any questions. I've seen some comments and some information sharing.
Yeah, we had one question related to the insurance and mandatory appraisals that the person says we were supposed to be notified of that happening according to an earlier webinar, and thought that there were some appraisals being organized, but hasn't heard anything. Shed any light on that?
Certainly there are literally, I'm not sure if it's probably hundreds now of appraisals that have been done. Okay. They've been done on either on an as request basis or where a region might have tried to organize sort of a month of appraisals type thing. If you haven't been asked for an appraisal, I would I would just wait and see, or you could check with like if you want to have an appraisal, let the folks at the general counsel office know. That would be Maria Pimpinella or Harry Lee.
Okay. I think all the other comments were just comments. I think that was
Okay.
the one question I saw there.
Okay, great.
I could pick up on one thing that I see in here about the CPTN 30 forms, and there's no proof of them going through. If you've got a My Business account, submit them online. You've got proof then.
Yeah.
Using the mail, there's never been proof.
Yeah. I have worked with
thank you.
church staff who really like to, use the phone and talk to somebody about, a problem. They call the bank, our bank manager, or they, whoever they had a problem with the CRA. I hate that because there's no audit trail.
Yeah.
If you use the system and you can't use email with the CRA, but if you use the CRA's recommended system, and if you use email, you've got the audit trail that says, hey, I followed up on this twice. You're in a position to escalate things. Okay, well, listen, we'll keep going.
Another question, sorry. A former treasurer who has the My Business account, and it's linked to the former treasurer's personal CRA account. Mm-hmm. How do we get it split? I assume CRA would need to do that.
No, the CRA has to prove who somebody is, and they ask for the proof to be coming through their personal account.
Okay, so how can it be switched to someone else's proof?
When that person's taken off the business account, their link is gone. Somebody else is added, a new link is added for that person.
Yeah, the originating person who maybe got the charitable status or whatever, or got the My Business account, used their own identity to prove it. But after that, what the CRA wants to know is who are the current authorized people.
Yep.
Right.
Now, if that individual is still authorized and saying, how do I get off that? That can be done, as an administrative step by the church. They need to say either add someone as a representative or have other people go in and add themselves as owners.
So does the original person have to be involved in that change?
Not at all. And the only thing I can think of is if you have it associated with your own my account, you could delete that at your end. But I mean, you should be doing that anyway, as a matter of if your relationship changes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Greg, we'll keep moving. The next topic is kind of an interesting one. For years, and this is one of our deep dives for tonight, and it's come up out of several cases that we've had over this summer. And many of us, including the national office and certainly my own church and others, use the Canada Summer Students Program as a way to, provide employment, hopefully get some productive things, hopefully provide the kids with a meaningful experience, all those things. But buried in the text is a requirement that there be workman's compensation coverage or equivalent. And many of us, I've actually been explaining to people that in provinces where workman's comp isn't mandatory, Ontario is such a province, but there are many others. A lot of congregations can opt out. They don't have to have it. It saves some thousands of dollars. It saves, it's about $1.27 per $1,000 of payroll. So it's, it can add up. But because all employees have to be considered, we used to in my own church, even 25, 30 years ago, we used to cover only the custodian, and you could do that back then. But when you had to cover the minister and the music director and so on, these are people who had, with the restorative care program, have coverage for income replacement. So it was fairly easy to say, no problem opting out of workman's compensation. The flaw in that argument that some people found troubling was that if you weren't in the benefit plan, you had no coverage at all. And so anyway, bottom line, we've been doing this Canada Summer thing forever, or for a long time, as long as it's existed probably. And to my knowledge, this is not a new rule. But we've found one or two cases where it's been questioned. My church has received all its money, but a couple of folks out there have gotten a follow-up question saying, "Hey, you didn't, do you have this insurance?" And they may or may not get their money. I'm waiting to see what happens. I'll report back fully. But typically, if it's a government requirement, you need to comply. So that's the historical advice. The historical advice was you could opt out. Know, though, that people who weren't in the benefit plan had no coverage. And workman's comp is intended to provide some accident-related compensation and also minimize or eliminate the ability to sue. So now, next slide. Again, this is first of all from our insurer. In general, churches and religious organizations are not automatically required. Exempt employees unless you directly run a daycare, directly run a camp, or some other service that does require, just by law, workman's compensation. So it's, again, if it's voluntary, most of us have opted out. And I just want to say that even under the restorative care program, if there was a work-related accident, how on dental forms and health forms, they always have a box and ask, was it work-related? Same thing here. So if it was work-related, then workman's comp pays first. And an employee's benefit plan actually ends up paying less because they offset against the monies paid from the workman's comp. So next slide, please. Just again, to clarify, volunteers are unpaid, and volunteers aren't covered for income replacement anyway. If there was an accident, volunteers are covered for their activities, as a volunteer, but not when it comes to compensation for time, because they're volunteers. We had a case a number of years ago where a church in, I could say in Ontario, was having its roof replaced, and the contractors basically burned down the church. So there is one thing you should be doing with workman's compensation is insisting that your workmen prove that they have it in place, because they need, they would be they should have workman's compensation, because otherwise they could sue you, and they should also have liability insurance in case they do something untoward, and the church needs to be protected. One more slide, I think, or a couple actually.
Just to be clear, and it's come up in the chat, this is one of the delightful Canadian things where it varies from province to province. So in some provinces, workers' compensation is mandatory, but in others like Ontario, it's not. Is that correct?
That's correct. I can't name the provinces, but I do know that it's mandatory in some provinces, in which case you don't have a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
I do need to mention this, though, even though it's not that we're Ontario-centric, but about 40% of our pastoral charges are in some part of touch some part of Ontario. So, and again, in this Canada Summer Jobs Act, this is what it says about insurance. It says shall have workman's comp or similar insurance. It's your responsibility. So basically, you need to certify when you apply for this money. And a lot of us, I'm going to say myself included, because I wouldn't even have looked at one of these applications. I have somebody, I have folks who do that, and they've sent it in, and we've always gotten good students and gotten paid by the government. But again, it's a technicality that may mean that a few folks don't get paid this year. By that, I mean repaid by the church from the government grant. And so we are now, next slide, please, saying that if you want to participate in this program, you better have workman's comp. And you can't cherry pick, so you need to have it for the whole team. Some folks were suggesting whether we could just add the summer students to the benefit plan for a couple of months. And the answer to that is no. It's not designed for that. Typically, there's a waiting period. And in any case, I've listed some Ontario information here that's current. The current rate is $1.27 per thousand. And if you need to take action on this because of Canada, the student program, or any other reason, here are some of the codes that you need to know. And again, they track and you report on what's on your payroll. So again, if there's any goofy stuff going on with paying a couple of people directly or doing separate source reporting or any of those kinds of things, which we discovered a lot of during the COVID days, you're hurting yourself again with this. Okay. So now we're just a couple of, I don't know if there are questions on that, but, just some regular reminders. E-transfers to the General Counsel office, important to know whether it's assessment or M&S. All the other ways to pay electronically, PAR and otherwise, are available online. You can pick that up off the church website, but the link is there. And I've got a couple of other reminders here that, again, I may not even print this anymore or include this slide for snail mail anymore, but if don't do snail mail right now, and if you're going to do it in the future, we have these new. Harry Lee put in some more modern lockbox procedures to speed up the processing of payments in the mail. So there you go. Next slide, please. Stock gifts. I'm going to keep putting this out there. The foundation, short of getting your own discount brokerage stock account, the foundation offers a better deal than any I've seen from any of the services, like even Canada Helps or others. My church, fully 1/3 of our contributions come from stock gifts. That's very unusual, I think. But if we in general are an older crowd with perhaps some investments accumulated over time that have appreciated, it's a very, very cost-effective way to do it. And you don't even have, you can literally point people to the foundation for this, and the foundation will handle the receipting and just send you the money. I just did this for a downtown church last week, and the whole process took about 4 days. That's seasonal. It'll be, it might take a little longer, at year end or something, but a very, very effective way, tax efficient for folks who have the means to do this. Next slide, please. Okay. Again, you might note we're winding down in terms of the usual contacts. We continue to have Rose Camborne staffing the CRA help desk. She can also help with questions around assessment and so on. And these are some of the other contacts for various topics, including the payroll team. Next slide, please. And then used to have my name on here, but Harry Lee is the new Chief Financial Officer. Not even that new anymore, well over a year. And Angelica and her team are there to serve you. Clyde and Greg can direct questions to all of us as well. However, you don't need to do that the way we used to. Okay, if you have a question, the forum is a great way to do it too. The forum, sometimes we get different perspectives, or we realize just how big a problem it is because folks are weighing in there. So the Treasurer Forum is definitely the way to go. And I guess the other thing I just want to share, Steve Fetter retired, I think, at the end of August. Another individual that you folks would have dealt with, probably dealt with more congregations across the country than even the moderator, would be Susan Jackson. And she retires at the end of next week. So, if you've had, if she's helped you out at some time, or if you know what terrific work she does, you might want to drop her a note at Statistics at United Church or S. Jackson at United Church. And as I say, there'll be an event for Steve and Susan next week. And they've been great contributors to the church. I think that's it. Greg, is there another slide there? I'm trying to remember.
No, that's the last slide. I'm
Okay.
going to stop the sharing, but there are some questions that have popped up.
Absolutely.
One person asked about requesting a waiver of the waiting period. I'm not sure what that refers to.
Oh, well, I think the thought was there, would that be another way to put a student on benefits? Which, again, it's a pretty normal thing. Yes, Robert Steves actually is clarifying it's a waiting period for benefits.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I've run that past HR, and there's a whole bunch of reasons. They absolutely don't want to do that. You can waive the waiting period as a negotiated thing for an employee that's going to be a long-term employee, but even adding someone to the benefit plan takes a while, and then there's all kinds of challenges administratively and otherwise, and it's not even fair to everybody else. You're doing it for some people you've never even met, let alone, and you won't do it for folks that you want to have working for you for 20 years. So some have raised it as a justice issue. So the bottom line is, if you want to do this program, as my church will be doing, we'll be signing on for the Workman's Comp in Ontario.
Right. Okay. So David Hughes is asking about in the next session, reviewing how to make a T4A for things like pulpit supply, and asking if it can be done through MYBA.
Yes, it can.
And the answer is yes.
There's only a couple of fields, but we will tell you what, we'll cover that. And
Okay.
if you want to send an email, we'll get you an answer in the interim as well.
Okay. Bill is asking, ADP has indicated that team pay is being eliminated in the future. How will that impact us?
Well, that's the first I've heard of it, but I am a mere retiree. The bottom line is that presumably they would be replacing it with something newer and better. Systems are retired with some regularity. I'm a little surprised to hear that one, because we just went on it about a year and a half ago, I think, or two maybe. But yeah, and the payroll arrangements anyway are us as a customer, the national church as a customer, might even review vendor, but the normal expectation would be that the vendor provides the replacement system and the documentation so we can work with it.
Okay. I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm seeing some comments about an ADP marketing. In my experience, ADP marketing calls have usually been mistakes that didn't realize that they were an existing customer on an affinity program that with 3,000, like 2,000 plus accounts. So I will. I'll put something out. I'll get Angelica to put something out on the forum on this topic, because I haven't heard anything myself.
Very good. I think that's it.
Great. Well, Greg, other than maybe training me back up on how to log in,
Yeah, well,
thank you.
I
Well
got
done.
here.
Well done on your first night.
Well, yeah. It's great to spend time with you again,
Be
Eric.
good.
You were so helpful when I was in congregational ministry, especially with an amalgamation I was part of. And I that's where this all came from, the
Yeah.
distinct color.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's great to be with you and with you, Clyde, as well. And thank you, Andrea, in the background for looking after our technology here.
Yeah. And so I'll just say to folks, right now, the deep dive topics that we're considering, one is refugee sponsorship. Continues to come up with a lot of different new creative ways to do it. And another is the whole area of benevolence and benevolent funds and who you can give money to and how that works. Lots of misunderstandings. So I'm seeing the question, when is the next session? We're on an every other month schedule right now until the government creates something crazy where we have to go weekly again. So I think it's November 24th or 5th, whatever the Wednesday is.
November 26th.
There we go.
Yeah. This is the end of September session. There's some of you think you're in October. Just for the last hour, we've suspended belief. We're still in September. And so, yes, the end of November.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. I was on a golf trip last week. So I understand retirees do that.
Sharon, I saw your comment there, and we'll look at that. Thank you.
Okay, folks. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Greg, I don't know if it's necessary. Steve used to take us into a debrief room and stuff, but we can do that another time and set up some protocols on how we do all this stuff.
Okay, sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
You want to go watch Yankees Red Sox, right?
It is on in the other room. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We'll debrief some other time then. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you in a couple months.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
In the forum. Great.
Thank
Thanks
you
all.
all.
Thank you for being a treasurer.